West Ham United 0, Brentford 1. The Hammers 16th in the table, just 2 places even above the relegation zone, but 10 points to be fair above Ipswich, who are 18th position. Brentford climbed to the heady heights of 11th from being just the 4 points ahead of us. They are now 7. The mighty bees from the other side of London. Weirdly enough, Manchester United are only 2 points above West Ham in the table. David Moyes' Everton have wasted no time whatsoever in leapfrogging his old club, i.e. us, and they do not look like they're going to be stopping anytime soon. Crystal Palace are above us. Tottenham are only 3 points above us. What is going on in the season where everyone sort of reasonably established is having an absolute nightmare of it? Trust West Ham to do the same at exactly the same time. I'm Will Pugh. James Jones, my close personal friend, business associate, all-round good bloke. He joins me as he always does, and he has done for every week for the last 6 years to talk about West Ham. Jonesy, great to see you again, mate. I had the absolute blessing, and it was a blessing, mate, of being ordered to Manchester to attend Manchester City v Newcastle for work on Saturday, which meant I had a ready-made excuse not to attend West Ham United 0, Brentford FC 1. I mean, to be honest, I didn't foresee it being a classic beforehand. Nat Sawyer from TalkSport came on, did the opposition view for us last week. But even I didn't see us losing 1-0.
Yeah, I was disappointed. Not that we'd lost, but I had this. I kind of left the ground going, well, I kind of half saw that coming, but at the same time, I was on the way to the game going, well, given the way we've been playing recently, we've been playing a lot better on the ground part, and we've got five new players in the squad this week.
And 2 weeks to prepare for this.
We've actually got a striker to use as well. It's great. James Ward-Prowse is back, and and I was like, yes, great. Right, we should win this, and we should win it well. And if the recent performance is anything to go by, it's going to be a good afternoon.
Yeah, I can't wait.
And within 5
minutes, how did it turn out, James?
It turned out like tragically, really. It was terribly disappointing, and like to the point where I kind of walked out and went, well, that wasn't what I was expecting. But at the same time, I should have expected that, because this is West Ham United, and we just don't behave normally as a football club, do we? We don't do things normally. So, yeah, incredibly frustrating, and just really compounded one of the worst Saturdays I've ever had. Really. I probably have had worse, but it felt like it was the worst Saturday I've ever had.
Well, that was my next question, mate. Just as we sort of did our usual and said hello and had a little catch up before we hit record, you actually said the words as you just mentioned there. It was the worst Saturday I've ever had. And you actually teased me and said, I'll tell you all about it on the pod. So I'm absolutely gagging to hear this bit. Or was it simply the worst Saturday you've ever had because you went to West Ham and they lost 1-0 to Brentford in the freezing cold?
Kind of, because I went to book my train a couple of days. I think it was on Thursday when I booked my train. I left it quite late, and then realised, to my dismay,
from Bury, of course,
Bury. And normally it's a 2-hour journey, very, very straightforward. I don't really mind it. Rail replacement, isn't it?
Straight through to Stratford, is it, via Shenfield and all that?
I have to change at Stowmarket or Cambridge or Ipswich, depending on what the route is. But I can go after that. I go into Stratford.
Fine, right.
So it's nice and easy.
That sounds like you get a seat. That sort of
100% get a seat.
Yeah.
Always get a seat with a table. It's
nice.
It's a nice journey. That's why I don't really mind the 2-hour journey, because it's sweet.
Right. Bit of time to yourself.
On the way back, I've got to make sure I don't fall asleep after a few beers. That's the only downfall. I have to really.
You set an alarm on your phone?
No, because that just doesn't work. And it's happened. Once I woke up in Norwich.
Brilliant.
And I only managed to get the last train back into Bury, so that scarred me.
Great. Norwich. Ouch.
Anyway, I've then weighed up in my head. There's rail replacements, so it adds probably another 45 minutes to an hour to my journey, and just the annoyance of then I had to get a train and then get on a bus for an hour and then get a train from there. And it was just annoying. I can't go to Stratford, so I've got to go to King's Cross or Liverpool Street. So then I've got to get the tube. Is it worth the hassle? And then I went, no. West Ham are playing well at the moment. We've got 5 new players back, loads of returning. We've got a striker. I can't wait to see the striker. So no, I'm gonna put up with the journey and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna just do it. So I booked my tickets and then so I had to get a train to Cambridge. And I had a 6-minute turnaround at Cambridge to make sure I got on the bus to get me to Royston, on time for this train.
All of it is so funny. All of these places are so far away from where West Ham play football.
Yeah. So I got on the train at 9:59 at Bury.
Yeah,
9:59 in the morning. Due to get in, I think at just before 1 o'clock. And so I was like, right, that's fine. So I got to Cambridge. I had a 6-minute turnaround to get on the bus, but I knew where the buses were, so that was okay. Long old queue, isn't there? It's a big old queue. Anyway, I've managed to get on 4 buses, the 4th bus that comes. Right, so I've missed quite a few, but I'm looking at it going, well, I would normally get the Royston if I'd got that first one with about 15 minutes to spare. So I've got a little bit of a cushion. It's okay. Don't panic yet, James. The world will be right. We're okay. Yeah. And bus comes along and I'm like, right, I'll get on this one. There's only about 10 people in front of me, but there's a girl there in a wheelchair. And I'm like, well, that's probably going to add another 5 minutes on because they've got to get the wheelchair lift out, haven't they? And I'm not moaning about that because, you know,
so
me being inconvenienced is very small compared to the inconvenience of having to live your life in a wheelchair. So I'm like, but that's a bit annoying, but what can you do?
Every bus journey she gets on is delayed by 5 minutes because of that.
Exactly. So I'm just like, well, that's if I'd have ran, I might have gone on the bus before, but I didn't, so it's okay. Anyway, this is where it gets terrible. So they bring the lift down outside of the coach, and she's sitting there ready to go. The moment that lift hits the floor, she stands up. She stands up. I kid you not. She stands up, folds her wheelchair, right? Sticks it in the little, the little boot underneath, the door up, and you can put it in this little cabin area underneath.
Right. It's like a rail replacement coach rather than a bus.
Yes, coach, right? So she stands up. She's watched the guys get the lift out from the side and bring it all the way down because it's a wheelchair lift. It goes slowly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The moment it hit the floor, up she jumps, folds it up, sticks it in the little baggage area underneath, and then walks onto the coach up the steps. But the weirdest
bypasses the lift.
Like people saw me. My face was like, "You've got to be kidding me!"
Did she say anything to anyone?
No, she just got up and just walked up. Her mate was with her as well. Didn't even flinch.
No acknowledgement of the fact that the lift's come down.
Is, no one else seemed to acknowledge it either. I was the only one that looked outraged at what I just witnessed. I'm like, "Are you? What on earth? Am I the only one that's like?" So anyway, the guys are then like. Even the staff were just like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And I'm like, "No, I've got a train to catch."
What? I thought if the staff, I thought they'd be like, "What?" Like,
no, they just
serious. I suppose they're getting paid. Yeah.
So they've ended up putting the thing up, but they couldn't work out how to get it back. So that's another 5 minutes while you got 4 geezers in high vis vests and rail replacements going, "How'd you do this?" I'm like, "Gosh, you got it out once. You surely you can get it back." So
you know the button you press to bring it down. It's the other one that says up. Yeah.
So I'm sitting there on the bus and I'm getting really agitated. I'm getting really agitated, and I'm giving the poor old girl who's supposed to be in a wheelchair, I'm giving her dirty looks, and I'm like, if you make me miss my train, I will not be happy.
She's doing squats in the aisle.
I've now been in Cambridge. I should have been in Cambridge for the grand total of 6 minutes. I was in Cambridge for 28 minutes before that bus left, and I was like, this is a joke. Anyway, I missed the train at Royston by 2.5 minutes. Oh. I saw it go off.
Did you have to get? Yeah, go on. How long to the next one then?
Only 15 minutes. Trouble is, the one I was supposed to get went direct into King's Cross. Only took 35 minutes. This one was stopping at every stop. Took me an hour and 15. Took me straight into Farringdon. Then I had to get on the tube and this is where it gets.
Farringdon. So you've gone past Stratford as well.
Past Stratford, gone to Farringdon to get back on. Got to Stratford. Called my brother up. Where are you? So we're in the pub. Right, I'm on my way. I get to the pub. Go to walk in, bouncer stops me, goes, "Sorry, mate, we're full up." I went, "You're joking." I've had a 4-hour journey.
Oh, mate.
I've had a 4-hour journey. I've had to stop myself from abusing a woman in a wheelchair for making me late.
A potential disabled, an alleged disabled person.
And now you're telling me I can't have a pint. He's like, yeah. And I was like, there's plenty of room in there. He goes, yeah, but we're legally not allowed to let in more than 200 people. And there's exactly 200 people in this pub as we speak.
Oh, mate.
And I was like,
did you explain? Did you tell him the story?
Well, I told him, I said, Matt, I didn't tell him the full story. I thought that he'd definitely like me now. I think I'm a nutter. So while I'm going begging him to let me in, my mates are in there. They've already bought me a pint. I want to get in. And he was like, no. A guy walks out. So I go, here we go. Look, 1 in, 1 out. The guy goes, where are you off to? The guy goes, I'm going to Bookies. So the bouncer is, no, he's only going to Bookies. He'll be back in a minute. I went, no, that's his problem. He's left the premises. I want to get in. He went, no, he'll be back in a minute. You can't come in.
As if you're allowed to do that.
I snuck in through the back door anyway. There's an entrance around the other side, and I snuck in that way. And then the guy saw me queuing up for a pint, and he sort of double take and was like, hang on, what's going on here? It gets worse. So then West Ham play and are terrible, and we lose 1-0, and I'm just like, well, that's just ridiculous. And then train home, I thought my train home, it said cancelled. Bearing in mind, I've got another three-hour journey. And I thought it said cancelled, but it actually said delayed. But I just took it as cancelled, so I stayed in the pub. I waited for the one that was leaving an hour later. Same route, just an hour later. Only for someone to jump in front of a train, and that one gets cancelled. And now I have no route back to Bury at all. So I'd start in Mum's in Woodford. And I was like, well, this is ridiculous, because poor old Lucy was waiting for me to come home because she had a night out with the girls, and she could do it because obviously she couldn't leave Harrison in the house.
Oh,
so I was like,
mate.
I'm really sorry. She's like, I was like, I'm really sorry. I can't do it. She went. I was like, the first train was cancelled. She went, no, it weren't. It was just delayed.
She's called you out on it.
So she called me out on it. I was like, what have I done? So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, that was the worst Saturday, not of my life probably, but it was certainly up there, top 5, I reckon. Because someone in a wheelchair, which sounds terrible of me, but I'm questioning their level of disability a word? I don't know. Or,
disability, I think, is the
disability is the word. See, I'm still so really
disabled ability.
I've forgotten how to speak English. That's how annoyed I am about it.
All I will say, Jonesy, on the storytelling ability, mate, absolutely elite level storytelling. That was. I was with you for the whole way. I felt the highs and the lows. Not there were many highs, to be fair. No, but yeah.
Who's the person that had to go and a moan about me about our little storytelling at the beginning?
Oh yeah, what was it? James Jones' voice sends me to sleep.
Yeah, or there was the one the other day that said I don't pay Patreon. Listen to you talk about hamsters when I'm telling you about disabled.
Oh, Mark Scott. Yeah.
So this week I hope the story was a little bit better than me just going out and buying a hamster on a random Thursday.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, actually, while we're talking about him, just FYI, everyone, we will talk about a bit more football on the show tonight. We're going to do messages next, Patreons, messages, and some of the others we've got on social media, and then we'll do a bit of a breakdown of the Brentford game in a little bit more detail. Before a quick look ahead to Arsenal away is the fixture we've got next, so that's something to look forward to, isn't it? We'll have a look at look forward to that at the end of the show as well, before the Opposition View podcast will be separate, of course, later in the week. Just a nice little tee up, Jonesy, for you. The last message I got off Mark, actually, the one before I obviously told you about, he said, I'm so glad I'm not paying for the patreon.com/wearewestham podcast, if you want to support me and James, by the way. He said, I'm so glad I'm not supporting paying on Patreon to listen to hamster stories. The last message I got from him, my girlfriend got me an absolutely sensational Valentine's Day card that was a picture of David Moyes' face that said Happy Valentine's Day from the love of your life, picture of David Moyes, and then a little asterisk that said I'm the love of your life, by the way, not Moyesy. Very, very funny. Very nice card indeed. Put that on my Instagram story. Mark Scott just replied with a load of the vomiting emojis.
Love it.
So yeah, he's keeping his positive attitude towards you and I and the We Are West Ham podcast, James. But still engaging with all our content and still listening to the pod. So I don't think you hate us as much as you're letting on, Mark. All right, Jonesy, wonderful start to what's going to be an otherwise grim podcast, I think. We'll do some more messages next up. We're going to do exactly what I just said, basically. Don't forget to follow us on socials at @WeAre_West Ham on Twitter. We are West Ham Pod on Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to see videos of what me and James do. And, of course, you can subscribe to patreon.com/WeAreWestHam podcast for all of these podcasts 24 hours earlier than everyone else, and you get ad-free listening. And more than anything else, more than that, you do obviously those two things are a bonus, but you get to support me and James. We've been doing this for an awfully long time, and to keep it as a viable endeavour, we need to get a few quid in through the door. So if you fancy supporting me and James and you want the We Are West Ham podcast to continue beyond the end of this season, it's patreon.com/WeAreWestHam podcast. Stay with us. Some more messages from all of you lot before a breakdown of the Brentford game. All of that coming up next. Another goal in the first 5 minutes. Seems the issue with switching on at the start will be Potter's biggest challenge. I was talking to a fellow Hammer who was waxing lyrical about the Brentford game. 59% possession, nearly 600 passes. We lost, for goodness sake. They had 2 more goals go past Areola that were disallowed. Arsenal, Leicester, Newcastle and the Moyes derby coming up. What do you lads think is a fair return from those games? That is from Paul. Paul Mulligan's Irons from into that. He sent that message on Patreon. Jonesy, I'm finding this a lot recently, right? And I'm, as you know, I'm kind of loath to keep on talking about it, but I'm finding that every now and then people looking at the stats as it and like being quite sort of upbeat about it all, and sort of ignoring the most important one, i.e. how many goals West Ham scored when compared to their opponents. What did you make of Paul's messages there, generally? Just about what you were saying, first of all, before what you think is a fair return from the games coming up.
Fair return. Well, big fat 0 against Arsenal.
No, before we do that though, mate,
right.
About just what he's saying about people, pointing to the possession, how many passes, and how well we're playing, when ultimately results is sort of what matters.
Well, I'd be remiss to criticise it, given I did do it earlier on this season under Lopetegui. The first 2 or 3 games, I was pointing.
J-Lo's biggest fan, weren't you?
I was pointing at the stats, going, well, people wanted more possession. We're getting it, we're having more shots,
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think we're in a very similar position now under Potter, in that he is trying to now get the players playing a completely different style, and I think on the largely it's working. Like, we can see a what looks like some actual tactics being played out in front of us by the players now. So when you look at the stats from that perspective, you go, okay, well, that is slightly encouraging. But the issue on Saturday was largely an issue for most of the season. Just a real lack of ideas in the final third.
Yeah.
It looked better in the second half when we had a strike on the pitch. But
funny
we just, first half, we just didn't really know what to do. Just didn't know. I think we were a little bit worried of their pace as well, which was concerning. But yeah, I get it why people look at the stats when you consider the fact that the fans were so annoyed that we barely touched the ball for 2.5 years under David Moyes.
Shut up.
And it was all very defensive, and it was all very and it got to the point where
record goals scored. Yeah.
No. That was before it got bad. It got to the point where his style, then there was a trade-off, wasn't there? There was a case. The style isn't great, but it's getting results. Yeah. But then it got to the point where the style isn't great and it's no longer getting results.
Yeah.
And that's what the fans were like. We want to change the style. We want to see more of the ball. We want to, we want to dominate games. We want to, dictate the play in midfield. And
how's that gone?
And so, well, I mean, the first manager that we brought in was the wrong manager to try and do that, admittedly. Yeah. The guy we've got in charge now has the ability and has done so in the past. Executed that strategy very well with loads of disrespect to Brighton, a lesser team.
Loads of disrespect to Brighton.
So I understand why people are looking at the stats and going, well, we did have a lot more possession. That's half of the job done. Now we need to work out to score some goals.
It isn't half.
Work out to score some goals.
That is the job. The job is scoring more goals than the opposition is the job.
That's what I mean. But what the fans wanted was more of the ball and better results. We're having more of the ball. We're just not getting better results yet. That's what I mean. It's half the job. We're getting there. We're getting there. It is what it is. What I don't agree with, and I did see someone at the weekend to go, "Oh yeah, well, we don't have any shots. We don't shoot." Well, that's rubbish because we do shoot. They're just not very good shots. Brentford only had one more shot than us at the weekend. Fact is that they made one of those shots.
They're good at shooting.
Three of them went in. Yeah. We are shooting. We're just not doing it very well.
That's not very good at it. Yeah.
Partly the reason why is because we've not had a striker up to this point. Now we do.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will change.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Right, we'll go back to Paul's shout about what you think is a fair return. Jim Odie, James, also on Patreon. Well, what can you say? This really made me laugh. Firstly, did Brentford wash their white shirts with their shorts on the wrong temperature? That kit was awful, but but they were much the better side and deserved to win. If plan A is Evan Ferguson, why not start him? He gets a good warm-up and can play 45 to 60 minutes, then take him off. To me, waiting until half-time when we were lucky to still be in the game was a waste, and our ability to play out from the back is awful. How many times did we put ourselves under pressure and then knock aimless balls into dangerous areas? James said that the Brentford game was a must-win. Leicester on Thursday week is now crucial, but we are still massive. He did put a laughing face emoji after that, did Jim? So I don't know how seriously he's taking that. Yeah, go on then, Jonesy. First of all, Brentford's kit. Excellent stuff. That they've just merged their red and white stripes, haven't they?
Hey, I'm glad Jim's noticed that because we all said that when they all came out of the tunnel at the beginning of the game. We all looked at each other and went, "That kit is awful. That's rubbish."
Truly minging.
Yeah, it's like three different colours. Like the shorts, the shorts and the socks were different shades of red, and then it was just sort of a slightly off pink shirt.
Yeah, it wasn't nice, was it?
No, get in the bin.
No, totally. But yeah, Evan Ferguson, why not start him and our ability to play out the back?
Well, Potter came out in his pre-match presser and said that he's not ready to start. So I didn't really expect him to.
You got to ease these people in, haven't you?
Yeah, given that he hasn't played a lot of football this year. He's had that ankle problem for a while.
Yeah.
So I understand the decision to kind of ease him in. And he probably came on sooner than Potter really planned him to come on. I don't think he wanted to bring him on at half time.
Yeah. That's probably screams that I'll give him half an hour, didn't it, for his first run out?
Totally. Yeah, but I think given the way that he impacted the game, then I mean I'd be very surprised if he doesn't start the weekend against Arsenal. But I'm not. I can understand why people would have wanted to see him start, but I can also see where Potter was coming from with it.
Yeah. What about our ability to play out from the back? Jim described it as awful and said, how many times we put ourselves under pressure and then just smash balls into aimless balls into dangerous areas. But I think his point is that we didn't make them dangerous.
Well, we don't have. I don't think we have the players. Definitely don't have the centre back. I mean, Kilman's okay on the ball, but Mavropanos, you can't have him playing out of the back. It's just not. It's not. It doesn't work. We just don't have the players to play that yet. We saw.
I mean, you got Aaron Wan-Bissaka, mate. He's been at Man United for Emerson. He's a decent footballer. I'm not sure I agree with you there.
But it's also it's all very well getting that. But then it's also the midfielder got to do their job and actually move into the space and give them options.
Yeah.
And I just don't think. I think it was better in the second half. Ward-Prowse was dropping deep and a little bit more mobile than Alvarez.
But Alvarez is like a good footballer. Do you know what I mean? Like he's good.
Yeah, I don't know. It just felt like Ward-Prowse was far more switched on to what a central midfielder needs to do if you're playing out from the back. The second half, but I still think that the players are still learning how to do that effectively. I think it's still.
But you can't tell me that Wan-Bissaka and Emerson are learning that. Emerson's been at Chelsea for however many years. Wan-Bissaka was at the United for 8 or whatever it was. Mavropanos, I'll give you. But even he came through at Arsenal, to be fair. So, like, he would have been training that.
At Arsenal, did he?
No, but sorry, spent a reasonable amount of time at Arsenal. Kilman, yeah, it's not terrible on the. But I don't know. I just sort of think, how much better is it going to get ball playing wise out of those defenders?
But like I said, it's not so much it's partly that, but then you've also got to think of the actual intelligence of the players as well, in terms of, okay, once you've got the ball, you've received the ball short, what do you do with it? Partly that is options from midfield and them creating enough space.
Yeah.
But the other half is just the intelligence. Like Mavropanos just doesn't have that intelligence to play the ball in the middle. His natural instinct is to boot it as far as he can. So yeah, I don't know. I think probably we will see quite a lot of changes in defence this summer, if that's going to be the long-term strategy.
Yeah, we only just bought Kilman for 40 million.
No, I think Kilman stays.
But the only one, who'd you change it? You only changed Mavropanos out of that, surely. And we got Todibo.
I wonder whether, I mean, Todibo probably is the long term. Yeah, maybe. I wonder whether Scarles is Emerson's replacement long term.
Emerson does not need replacing, though, does he?
Well, I mean, he's been subbed at half time the last 3 games, I think. Close to it.
Tactical. All right, I'll tell you what we'll have just a little bit of a response to Paul and Jim there. So, Jim, I like what Jim's done. He's just said, James said yesterday was a must-win Brentford. Leicester on Thursday week is now crucial. He doesn't even mention Arsenal. Jim's just skipping straight to the Leicester game. He's just not going to waste his time and energy in typing out anything about the Arsenal game, which I quite like. But Paul says, Arsenal, Leicester, Newcastle and the Moyes derby. That's Everton away, of course. The last ever time West Ham will go to Goodison Park. What do you think is a fair return from those games? So just to read you through, James, you've got Arsenal away this Saturday coming. Leicester at home the following Thursday, or the Thursday straight after that. Then there's a bit of a gap. Then we got Newcastle home on the 10th of March, Everton away on the 15th. Fair return in answer to Paul's question on Patreon there. What do you think?
0 at Arsenal, unfortunately. As much as I'd love to go there and beat them, it would be wonderful.
All right, Kevin Keegan.
It would be my season made.
Make up for Saturday.
It would definitely make up for Saturday. Yeah. Leicester, I think, will beat Leicester.
We have to beat Leicester.
We have to. I will rephrase it. Leicester, I think we need to beat Leicester. Yeah. So that's 3 points. Do you know what I've got? Newcastle don't travel well, so I think there's a chance there.
Well, I watched them get turned over at Man City. I know Man City are good at football, but
but they're not as good as they were. So I mean, there's one thing. So I'd like to think we could probably do a job on Newcastle. What was the last one?
Then we got Moyes, Everton away. There's no way in 1,000 years we're winning that. No way in 1,000 years.
Yeah, we won the last couple at Goodison Park, I think. We had some good
results. Under David Moyes.
Under David Moyes there, yeah. Yeah. But I don't see us going there and getting anything. They're in great form at the moment, and we are not going to win there. And if anything, it could be quite embarrassing. Yeah.
No, I couldn't agree more. Just quickly, right? We'll bring. Sorry, by the way, anyone listening, thinking, will he stop coughing and clearing his throat? I'm feeling just a little bit run down all of a sudden. Just quickly, right? And you know as well as I do, I get absolute dog's abuse from all sides, right? David Moyes, and I'm not going to say anything, right? David Moyes and the job he's done at Everton. What are your general thoughts and feelings, your own? And what you've heard and on the discourse, because I'm not, it's almost like too much of a toxic environment for me to get involved in anymore, because people think I'm just sort of a Moyes sycophant. What just talk to me about your thoughts on the whole thing.
I've seen a lot of nonsense about, Moyes is won again. We should never have got rid of him. He's this, he's that, he's the greatest. I'm so delighted for Everton. I really want Everton to do well. Nonsense. Everton have stunk the Premier League out for the last decade. Right? I don't care that they've got lots of history, right? And it is a great football club. They've got fantastic history, a wonderful football club, right? But they've stunk the Premier League out for a good 10 years, at least, right? And people are now delighted because David Moyes is manager and they're winning a few games. It was time they went. And that's I like Everton. It's quite a nice football club, quite a good family club. But I'm sorry, but nonsense if you're delighted that they're doing well. I'm delighted that he's doing well. But there you are. But there's absolutely
bit of a nice romantic story, though. Moyes back to Goodison, seeing out the last season, going back to lead them to the new stadium. Any romance there, or
there is romance there? And part of me wondered. I'm not surprised he's done well, but part of me wondered is it going to work? A lot of people said, "Oh, you don't go back." Well, we came back to West Ham and it worked, but I thought the time in between.
He's really good at going back.
And then him coming back to Everton was 12 years or something like that. A lot's happened in that 12 years.
Can't wait till he takes over from Amorim.
Yeah, you can imagine. So I was a bit concerned that it wasn't going to work. But I'm happy for him. Good luck to him. Fair enough. But, and there's a big but, I still don't want him to beat us. And I've seen people go, looking forward to him, David Moyes beating West Ham in a few weeks. Grow up. I'm not having that.
You know what that is, though, don't you? That part of it, right?
I reckon you're one of them as well.
No. You know what it is? It's the I love West Ham more than anything, as you well know, James, and I want us to win every single game of football that we go into. That sentiment, though, for the people you've seen say that, I don't think anyone for a second wants West Ham to lose to Everton, but if and when, I'm pretty sure we're both in agreement that is 100% happening. When we lose to Everton, I think there are those West Ham fans who are so sick to the back teeth were sick to the back teeth and just had their head in their hands during the periods of sickening abuse the man was getting from so-called fans of this football club, for whom would no doubt have delighted in the European Conference League win, all of the historic, remarkable runs to the late stages of the European competitions 3 years in a row for the first time in our history, and all the excellent domestic performances that we saw, as well, mixed in with some lows as well. I appreciate that. I think there'll be those who will delight in the fury and the anger and them foaming at the mouth from some of those people. What do you make? And this is a question for you rather than me. What do you make, James, of the fact that Everton are objectively doing better, and those suggestions that that West Ham wouldn't be in this position, because there are those fans going, well, look, he's just a better manager than Lopetegui and Graham Potter. That isn't me, by the way. That isn't me. I'm just saying, I'm bringing it up and serving it up to you, so it's not me saying it.
I disagree. I've said it so many times.
Is he a better manager than Lopetegui?
Yes.
Is he a better manager than Graham Potter?
Jury's still out on Potter at West Ham, so it'd be difficult to say.
No, just generally.
Yeah, I don't know is the answer to that. I'm undecided. But
the answer is yes, isn't it?
But I disagree that this whole if we hadn't got rid of him, then we'd be doing far better. That second half of last season, we won 4 games after the New Year.
No, we don't have to do this again.
No, but any other club, that manager is sacked. Why is there such people just can't get their head around it? You've even got neutrals going, Everton are doing better than West Ham. If Everton finish above West Ham this season, it won't be because David Moyes is the greatest manager the world has ever seen. It's just that Everton would have had a slightly better season than us, which happens quite a lot, to be fair, apart from the last 10 years when they've stunk the place out. So I'm not having it. We've got to forget about David Moyes. He's doing a great job at Everton, and I'm happy for him. But he's not our manager anymore, and we need to just get on with it.
Yeah, I was just wondering what you thought about it because lots of people.
Now you do.
No, yeah, that much is true. I saw. Yeah, no, you're right. Fair enough. Okay, so just to go back to Paul's question there, you're saying loss at Everton. You reckon we get a mate? If we do you think? I don't think we're beating Newcastle. Like that, they have got some decent players. Isak's
but they
great.
don't travel
Paul's
well,
really
do they?
good.
They haven't travelled very well this year. I think 4 to 6 points out of those 4 games.
Yeah, well, they have played they'll have played the cup final by then as well, won't they? Oh no, we won't. Yeah, James, that's got to play into our hands. West Ham away is the game before they play the what's it called? The Carabao Cup final against Liverpool. That's 6 days later. So there'll be a few people I don't want to get injured, but they might be playing for their place on the bus. So we've also got Brighton at home in the FA Cup the week before, plus Liverpool in the league the week before that. You know what? All right, so I'm still not having us beating them because they are a good side. So you're saying what? That we beat them? So you're saying 6 points out of those 4 games, are you?
4 to 6 because a draw against Newcastle.
Oh, he's asked. No, Paul's the sort of man.
A good result.
Yeah, but you got to give an actual number because I think we'll get
6.
3 points.
6
points. There we go. Look, I tell you, I'd be delighted if we got 4. But I think it's 3. Paul, James, I'll tell you what. Right, I'm going to give you an opportunity now. I did actually read this out. I did actually read this out on the podcast, on the Opposition View podcast last week. But I'm going to give you an opportunity now. To discuss it while I'm here as well, which I think you'll like. Clive Bennett on YouTube, in the YouTube comments last week. I enjoy listening to James, who always talks sense and is the voice of reason, but I find Will's forthright self-belief in his own opinions and refusal to listen to anyone else really grating and somewhat delusional. I also thought Guilherme played really well, as has everyone else I've either listened to or read this week. So Will's completely out on his own. Well, trust me, Clive, all the people in the away end around me. Certainly wasn't on my own then. Even if Guilherme had played badly, it's just plain wrong to slag off a 19-year-old lad on YouTube, although I doubt will ever accept he was being unfair. I honestly don't know how James manages to stay so calm on the pod. Well, first of all, James hasn't stayed that calm tonight. But it wasn't in response to anything I said. Yeah, I thought I'd give you a chance, James, even though I've already read it out on the podcast, to let you revel in that, basically.
I did. I saw it. I was the one that shared it in the WhatsApp group. I saw that. And
no concern for my mental health, I might add. Actually magnifying the trolls.
Yeah, well, someone's got to. I find the trolls help my mental health. It feeds it. It's I quite enjoy.
Yeah, I must admit.
Having a pop. But no, I appreciate Clive. I'm thinking of doing a spin-off where it's just me. So if you're ever interested, by all means, and I'll try and keep the stories of me being upset with people in wheelchairs down. But
and hamsters,
yeah. But yeah, no, I enjoyed it. And unfortunately, I tend to agree with him on the Guilherme. When I said to you last week, I didn't agree with what you said. But yeah,
clearly come across differently on TV.
I keep my cool on the podcast because I have to. That's it, Clive. That's all it is, mate.
It's funny, isn't it, James? How I actually, as you were saying that about, there are people who out there who would take far more umbrage and get far more angry at my views on David Moyes than there are those who get angry at yours on disabled people.
This is all you need to know, mate.
That is the world we're living in these days. Yeah. Oh dear, oh dear. Right, I think. Oh, James, that was it. One more while we're doing social media interaction and all that sort of stuff. Before we actually go into the Brentford game and break it down in a little bit more detail, you had a bit of social media back and forth, whatever, on the weekend because there was lots of chat, wasn't there, about the stadium and the atmosphere and the general match day experience at West Ham. There was a bit of that, and you were, to be fair, the trailblazer of the We Are West Ham podcast in getting into social media beef. And I would say actually you're the master at it. So a bit more of that from you at the weekend.
No, I just noticed. I noticed last night that every time I just open up Twitter and just almost every other tweet is someone moaning about the atmosphere. Oh, London Stadium's so boring. It's such a rubbish stadium. It's not a football stadium. We've sold our soul. Oh, the club's got to sort it out. I'm just like, it's been 9 years, guys. Just chill out. We're not going back to Upton Park, which saddens me beyond belief. Like, I loved Upton Park as much as the next West Ham fan, but it's been 9 years. We need to stop having this comparison. This whole thing about London Stadium as a rubbish atmosphere, for me, is lazy, because I've been there when the place has been absolutely rocking on more than one occasion. I understand that. Yes, okay, it's
isn't it week to week the problem? Like the run of the mill games is where the criticism comes from.
It may be, but we only get the complaints about the atmosphere at the stadium after we've lost the game. I don't know what people are expecting, like us to still be singing and dancing when we're 1-0 down at Brentford. Like, come on! Like, of course, it's going to be bad, and it would have been bad at Upton Park, especially that first.
Well, there is that.
So I'm just so bored of seeing fans every time we lose a game immediately point to the stadium and go, "Oh, the stadium, the atmosphere is terrible. There's too many tourists. They're selling popcorn. It's terrible. That's why we're losing games." I worked it out. We've been there. This is our 9th season. Half the time since we've moved it. So half the season since we moved to that stadium, we've spent in the bottom half of the Premier League table. No wonder it's been terrible and the atmosphere's been bad. Do you remember those first 2 years? It was woeful. We almost went down. Yeah. So of course the atmosphere's not going to be great. And like the 3 years that we were in Europe, not a single peep off anyone about how bad the stadium is. Not a single peep.
No.
I wonder why.
It's just everything. Everything's what's the word? Magnified, isn't it? Or not multiplied. That's what it is. It's like the good atmospheres are multiplied. They're so much better. I remember that Seville game at home in the Europa League. It was absolutely incredible. Chelsea at home, one of the really early ones at London Stadium. But that Seville game, yeah. It's like when you got 60,000 people all singing off the same hymn sheet and all proper into it and into the game and wanting to make it lively and make a bad atmosphere. It's sort of way better than anything I've probably experienced up to Park. But therefore, when it's bad and the flatness and the anger and the general apathy, that's all exemplified as well. When people are just abandoning it early, it feels so much more empty and so much more rubbish. What do you say then to the suggestion, James, that I am on this side of things. I'm not saying that the atmosphere was always brilliant at Upton Park, but there's no doubt whatsoever in my mind, and this isn't claret and blue tinted or rose tinted spectacles. There's no doubt whatsoever in my mind that that at Upton Park, if the team were going badly, that you would what's the word? That the fans felt an obligation to get involved. Do you know what I mean? And that they could like revitalise and regalvanise the team. There's none of that at London Stadium, is there? If we're losing and we're not playing well, everyone just sits there flat. That's how it is. There's no from the fans or a big tackle used to go at Upton Park, and everyone would everyone would get up and they'd
stadium. You get
I don't know if you do though.
Go in, but okay,
maybe in pockets.
I know what you're saying. But what's the common denominator in those two scenarios? The fans.
Yeah.
Right? So I keep hearing is, no one sings. Well, sing then, for crying out loud. Like,
no, but the momentum of songs is harder to get going, isn't it?
It is, and I've seen someone say, we're talking with the club, we're trying to get a singing section, which I've always been a little bit like, what the hell was that? But I understand the concepts and the reasons.
I think in this day and age,
and particularly in a bigger stadium like London Stadium, and I looked a little bit more into, I can't remember what they're called, so apologies for that, but I looked sort of more into their sort of what they're trying to do and their plans, and they're accepting of the fact that the atmosphere at the stadium can be a lot better week to week if we were able to get sort of a group of fans all into one area. Right, great. I'm all for that, but this general feeling every single week whenever we lose that the stadium's terrible. Like I've never had an atmosphere. It's like, no, you're wrong, and the people go, oh, it's never been this bad at Upton Park. That's wrong. Upton Park wasn't electric every single week.
No,
right? And
I would say on average,
it's a myth.
I would say
it's a myth, and it probably, and you kind of alluded to it earlier. It probably felt like it was better every single week because it was smaller and a little bit more compact, and you had less fans there.
I think people left earlier less. I felt there were more. I think the percentage of people who were there desperate for West Ham to win was higher.
Fans, right? That's down to the fans to stay to the end.
There are other elements that affect that. Like, because put it this way, right? I sit just above from that group you're talking about. I think some of them are situated just in front of me, like in the corner between the Billy Bond stand and the Bobby Moore lower, right on the Billy Bond side. And there's a group down there who stand up the whole game and try and get songs and get atmosphere. I do just think there is that, because the place is bigger, there's more, people feel a little bit more almost, I don't know if embarrassed is the right word, but like exposed to start and join in with chants, which is why I think weirdly, it's really embarrassing to say it, but I do think that the singing sections are probably needed. And I think you'll see that across all stadiums in the Premier League, where it's tragic, but how fans are now getting categorized into like, you know, fans who want to go and sing and support the team. It's like, what? Everyone should be here to support the team, but it's just not the way of it, is it? You know, you'll see more neutral zones, and Man City are extending their stadium. They're adding 7,000 seats, and the amount of season ticket holders isn't going up. That's, you know, because they want more tourists in through the door, more one-off match goers, because they'll spend £100 in the club store as well, where me and you and season ticket holders won't.
Yeah, I mean,
those factors do play into it. I don't think it's as easy as just saying, oh, if you want everyone singing, just start singing, because less people, that it's harder to make songs and atmosphere take at London Stadium would have been Upton Park.
I get your point, and I want to make it very clear to those listening that I'm, for one, not saying that London Stadium is an amazing stadium and it's better than Upton Park, and I don't think it's as bad as people claim it to be, but it definitely isn't the perfect football stadium. But I take umbrage with just constant moaning and groaning about the place. But those moans and groans only come out after a defeat. It's almost like it's just a lazy target that people just like the low hanging fruit. What can I have a moan about? We've just lost to Brentford. I've moaned about the stadium again. Why not? I'm not moaning about it for a couple of weeks. It annoys me when it gets referred to as the soulless bowl. There was a hell of a lot of soul there when we beat Sevilla. A lot of soul there last season against Leverkusen. So to call it a soulless bowl for me is just incorrect. And again, another lazy way of describing the stadium.
It can be, but it isn't always.
Yeah. And I just think people just use it as an excuse to have a moan. There's a reason why we lost to Brentford at the weekend, and it wasn't the stadium's fault. And I'm just sick and tired of going on social media, and it's just literally a whole stream of people having a pop at the ground almost 10 years after we moved there.
Yeah.
And it's just boring now. It's boring for me. Like, yes, okay, it's not perfect. Yes, it could be a little bit better. It could be louder on certain match days. But I don't know. I think I've said everything.
What was your actual Twitter beef about, or was there anything in particular? No, I just saying this.
No, I just said it. I was like, I can see everyone's having a moan about the stadium again. But I can guarantee that the atmosphere at Upton Park, if that exact game happened at Upton Park, especially that first half, wouldn't have been any better. And I had a few people have a go. Not really. I've had worse, to be fair. I've had worse responses to things I've said. And I've had a sort of.
You've said worse things, to be fair.
Yeah, I've said worse things, but I've had a back and forth with one or two of them. But I've decided to take a step back. A couple of guys have tweeted me, and I've had to stop myself from replying. I thought, no, I'm done. You can have the last word, mate. I'm out. Stoicism in practice, right there.
Yeah, love it. Right, let's have a look back at the Brentford game next. Right, Jonesy, I've only sort of left about 10 minutes-ish at the end of the podcast to actually talk about the game, because quite frankly, it just sounds pretty normal. I'm obviously going to throw to you for most of this because, well, you were at the game. Mate, honestly, Man City Newcastle, what a brilliant game of football that was. If West Ham ever went bust, I know we've got that little bromance with City, but it was really enjoyed. They played really good football, really good. And it was like a good atmosphere in there, proper football stadium, full up, decent away end, lots of singing and atmosphere and stuff. And the home team were good at football and they won. Just one thing I wanted to draw your attention to before I throw to you for most of this, right? I was on the way back from Manchester, and I read a couple of different match reports, both of them written by friends of the podcast. First of all, Jack Rosser, the Sun's West Ham correspondent, and then Jacob Steinberg from The Guardian, both of whom came on, of course, for our end of season review at the end of last season. Now, this, for me, from Jacob Steinberg, only 4 minutes had passed when the visitors broke from a corner and found West Ham's defence in disarray. Konstantinos Mavropanos had abandoned his post. Emerson Palmieri made it easy for Brian Mbeumo to release Sharda, and the winger scored at the second attempt. Now, all I put was opposition broke from deep, West Ham's defence in disarray, Mavropanos abandoned his post. West Ham's entire season in 3 sentences. The sense I got from reading some of the articles before I'd watched any of the actual highlights was just that the first half was like playing under Lopetegui, and in the second half we looked a bit more normal. And then obviously the Jared Bowen penalty that wasn't given, we had a couple of chances. So just talk to me about the first half first.
But it was. I had to look up the dugout and make sure it wasn't Lopetegui standing there, because it was like a carbon copy of some of those games that we'd experienced under him. It was there was no shape. They were cutting us open. We were terrified of Wissa and Mbeumo every time they got the ball. It was just a really bad 45 minutes of football. I don't remember us being anywhere near their goal at any moment.
Yeah.
And they had 2 disallowed for offside, and one of them was, from what I can gather in the stadium, it was like hairline.
Oh yeah, I've seen the highlights. It was
so it's kind of like we could be 3 or 4 down there and the game's over. And it was like a performance under Lopetegui the first 45 minutes. There was just nothing about us. Absolutely nothing about us. We were terrified of their pacey forwards.
Yeah.
And those pacey forwards were giving us a reason to be terrified, because they were taking advantage. And there was a couple of times, Mavropanos, oh my word. Like, there are times when I look at him and go, he's not a bad centre-half.
Imperious, I sometimes say, yeah. He's for 89 minutes of every game, he looks mustard.
There was even a couple of times in that first half where he made some really good interceptions or really good tackles. And I twice I remember saying out loud and turning out to my mates, and there's people around there going, that Mavropanos is world class. Twice out loud, almost like tongue in cheek. Because
you were having a bad day, weren't you?
Within a couple of minutes, he does something silly, falls over himself, or miskicks the ball, and it's just like, this guy, I don't understand him. What's going through his head? So yeah, that's the first half summed up. Terrible.
Yeah. And then sort of from this, what happened then? The triple substitution at half time. What changed in the second half? Did we look any better? I know Ferguson came on What did you make of that?
Yeah, well,
this whole second half.
Well, Ward-Prowse came in for Souček, raised a few eyebrows, I think, but immediately gave us more legs in midfield.
Yeah.
Their midfield were all over us, but whereas Ward-Prowse just dropped a little bit deeper, which gave us a little bit more space further up the pitch. And he started dictating play a little bit more. It wasn't Iniesta style dictating play, but it was, it just gave us a little bit more in that midfield. Evan Ferguson up front was just an outlet. He did a lot of running, ran the channels, was physical, won a few aerial duels, and it was just an outlet that we haven't had really all season. And obviously that then allowed Paquetá to kind of drop in a little bit and sort of do the dirty work where he likes to do it, sort of in the number 10 role. And it just kind of, the system suddenly made sense again. It kind of all just clicked because we had players playing in their right positions.
Yeah. Square holes.
Yeah, and Scarles coming on for Emerson, again, he just seemed a lot more solid. I couldn't really put my finger on it, but it was just a lot more solid down that left-hand side in the second half. He got forward quite a lot. That was probably the less effective of the three. But Ward-Prowse and Evan Ferguson completely changed the shape for us, changed the game for us.
Yeah.
And it obviously then, Bowen sprung into life because he had someone in the middle to target.
Yeah.
It was just a far better second half. And it felt like for a good 15, 20 minutes, it was a matter of sort of when, not if, we were going to score.
Yeah.
And it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
There was a period where we had about 8 corners in a row.
Yeah.
We were like, surely one of these, statistically speaking, like
especially with Ward-Prowse on.
Yeah, and Ward-Prowse is literally just going backwards and forwards back to the corner flag. And and every single one was perfect.
Yeah.
We just couldn't get a head on it. Brentford, to their credit, they defended so well for that entire 45 minutes. They were very good defensively. But every single ball into the box was perfect. It was like, we'd missed this so much.
Yeah.
It was a much better second half. And I think maybe if we'd have played for another 5-10 minutes, we may have got one.
Yeah.
But it's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. The one thing I would say, James, that tackle on Jared Bowen is that really, really wound me up. And I know you watched the highlights. It's just some of the crap we get seen given for penalties in this day and age. That was like the most bloody. He's like linked his arm under him. Jared Bowen is in the dominant body position, and then he like just boots him in the back of the calf. It's like it's such a foul. Like anywhere else on the pitch, that is 1,000% a foul. And I just honestly, and I'm like, what? I tend to be a general sort of advocate for VAR and technology and stuff. They make it impossible for even their supporters to support it sometimes. Like that, it's just such a cast iron. Oh yeah, like blatant trip. Then ref ain't seen it. Like let's pull that one back. Like he's just clattered, nowhere near the ball, clattered into the back of him. Clear. Some of the minuscule contacts we see used as excuses to give fouls. That is just like, oh yeah, that knocked out of the park. That one, yeah, just pull that back. No one's moaning about that. It's pathetic. Such a penalty.
If he doesn't trip him, Bowen scores because
Exactly.
he's lining up a shot. He will score. And to be fair, mate, we've seen people we've seen players in the Premier League be sent off for worse for like worse challenges. Sorry, not worse challenges. It makes no sense. But are we surprised? No. Like there's at least one game a weekend in the Premier League where a decision like that is made or not made.
Yeah.
And this week, well, we had the same thing at Chelsea, didn't we, with the Bowen shove that led to the goal. It's 2 weeks now that we've had it. It's like, well, we might get a fortunate one next week. Hopefully, it comes against Arsenal in the 93rd minute to win it. But I don't know, like, I don't really know what else to say. Like, we could talk about VAR to a boo in the face. Like, it's not going to change, is it?
No, quite. Right, James. Arsenal away Saturday. You got 30 seconds. Sum it up. What's going to happen?
What's going to happen?
They got no players.
They've got no players, but they still managed to score 2 goals.
They got Mikel Merino, who's
up front, banging in braces.
Their backup holding midfielder playing up front. Yeah, either side of, or with Ethan Nwaneri, he's about 14, and Leandro Trossard, the other side of him.
Yeah, I don't think, even with that, I don't think we're going to win, unfortunately. Maybe if we hopefully, I think he'll start Evan Ferguson this week, and I think if he does, that just it was very obvious in that second half against Brentford that we just look so much better with an outlet and a striker on the pitch.
Yeah,
maybe I don't think we'll get battered. Touch wood. I've said it now. We are. But I think we could give them a game, but I just think they're going to have too much quality still. They've got no players, but even their 14-year-olds are better than half of our squad.
Fair enough. All right. Well, look, we'll have an opposition view, hopefully with Deluded Gooner, big Arsenal YouTuber, and Big Gooner, of course, later in the week. There's James Jones's little summary. Yeah, I think we're going to lose too, for what it's worth. If you want more cutting edge insight and analysis like that, why don't you consider subscribing to the We Are West Ham podcast on Patreon, patreon.com/We Are West Ham podcast. You get every single podcast a day before everyone else, plus ad-free listening, of course, and you get the heartwarming feeling of knowing you're supporting two long-term West Ham creators who hopefully add a little something to your week, wherever you're listening to the podcast, at the gym, on your way to work, while you're mowing the lawn, whenever and wherever, or as a few people do reportedly, according to some of our previous comments, to send them to sleep listening to a couple of James Jones's tales. But yeah, if you like what we do, consider supporting. It doesn't cost a great deal of money, and in return you get 2 podcasts a week. Not a bad deal if you ask me. That's patreon.com/We Are West Ham podcast, and that will help me and James to keep this as an ongoing endeavour beyond the end of this season. Don't forget to follow us on socials as well, at We Are _West Ham on Twitter, We Are West Ham Pod on Instagram, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just search We Are West Ham podcast and all your major platforms basically, and you'll find us, apart from Facebook. Thanks for listening, everyone. I always say West Ham are massive. West Ham are massive, but we are also still pretty rubbish. Lost 1-0 home to Brentford. Arsenal away coming up on Saturday. Who knows? Keep the faith, everyone. Up the hammers, and we'll speak to you later this week.